What's good with y'all tonight, folks? It's your man Donald King. I took Monday off. I didn't know if I was gonna do one tonight. After I reached my 100th podcast, I was gonna take about a week off, but decided to get right back into the saddle. What's good? What's really good? How y'all doing tonight? Y'all have to forgive, man. It's like, man, how am I 45 and still getting acne, man? It's wild. Sitting here looking at my skin, like, what happened? Why? Your tone is racist, but anyway. Yo, man, so I was driving back from Indiana today. I got to spend, the better part of the last week with my little boy, who I love more than anything. That kid, he's everything to me, right? And on my drive back, I had this thought. I actually wanted to put it into a little, into one of my little snippets, one of my little stories, but I figured that it's like I would expound on it a little bit in tonight's podcast. And it goes a little something like this. Imagine this dude, right? And he keeps sleeping with the same prostitute over and over and over again. He's always coming up with VD. Always got a different itch and scratch there, a different wart and welt there. And he's like, I keep getting VD from sleeping with this woman. And a rational person's like, stop sleeping with the woman. And the dude's like, if there was only a way to stop getting VD. And you're kind of like, yes, stop sleeping with the woman. If there was just some way to get rid of these crabs, some way I could just stop them from happening. Right? It seems like a far-fetched scenario, but let's go like cultural with it, right? Look at black people. Black people are constantly like, how are we going to uplift the black community? How are we going to stop getting our youth? How are we going to get our youth to stop killing each other? As an Avatar, I'm kind of like, yeah, just throw out that toxic culture that was cooked up in somebody's boardroom and spoon-fed to you. Get rid of the poison cake. And they're like, there's only some way to stop all this pain and suffering and end these generational curses. And I'm like, you do realize someone engineered something to keep you broken. They poisoned your well. Stop drinking from that well. And they're gonna like, if only there was some way. If only there was some way. Look at white people. White people always constantly complaining about how hard it is in America, how tough life is, and how they had to put in their work and they don't see why any brown person is complaining. Yeah. And you're like, yo. They're like, if only there was some way to stop all this misery and suffering we go through. And I'm like, yeah, as Avatar, I'm like, focus on the circumstance. Figure out the mechanism behind this stupid game you're playing. Figure out why you're playing it and what it's distracting you from. And focus on that instead of focusing on bullying people who are darker than you and trying to feel superior to them. Let go of your need to bully and dominate people who are darker than you, and you can focus on solving the problem. And they're like, if only there was some way to get to the root of the problem. What's the issue? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Bullying black and brown and yellow people, it's a vice. Just like as per the first Example, sleeping with a prostitute would be a vice. Black culture, keeping up with the trends and following the escapades and the ups and downs of media as presented through the social industry. It's a vice. At a certain point, the vice starts to work against you. And you have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to stick with the vice? Or going to get rid of it and get better? What is crack? What is meth? It's a vice. What do all vices have in common? They ultimately destroy the person who seeks them out. The person who seeks them out becomes dependent on them. Can't do anything without them. Ultimately tries to justify them, keeping their source of comfort nearby just in case they need to shoot up. A couple weeks ago, I shot a podcast with my brother in Norway, Brother Rube. What's up with your boy, if you're out there watching? But he was talking about what he did in order to overcome addiction. Now, Rube's situation, if you watch the podcast, and I just briefly submitted here, is very different than most people's because, like myself, he is on the autism spectrum. If you're on the autism spectrum, you have sensitivity issues because you just experience life in high def. And, you know, in my circumstance, fortunately, I came up in a rough condition, so it's like I had to learn how to focus through the oversensitivity. But for a lot of people who are on the spectrum, it's hell. So he started taking these meds that, first he was trying to take some meds and they weren't doing anything for him. And then he found some stuff that was on the street that just totally desensitized him. It became a vice. A thing he could look to give him relief from the pressure of life. And he took to it, and it took to him. And unlike most people, you know, he hit a point where he became aware of the impact it was having on his life and how it sort of diverged from what he had ultimately, sought it out for. The chemical that he was taking. It didn't have the effect, the desired effect. And unlike most people, he had the willpower to just stop. Cold turkey. And he went through some pretty horrific withdrawal. But you know what he did? He laid out the pills that he was addicted to right in front of him and kept them within arm's reach while he went through his detox phase, knowing that he could have just as easily taken one of them and made the pain and the discombobulation go away. He decided to go through his withdrawal with those things right there. And what he gained in that, at least according to how he describes it, is the ability to be around the thing that was his vice and to not be ever fearful of the idea that he may relapse, because the only thing that kept him from doing it was unavailability. He let, and just in case you didn't follow, he let himself go through a very painful withdrawal with the thing that would make him feel better within arm's reach, just so when he finally beat it, he beat it because he decided that's what he wanted to do, and not because he simply made it unavailable to himself. I think that's a beautiful thing to do with all vices. We live in a world where you're not going to be able to get away from all the things that can be a vice, right? A lot of people are addicted to food. They're addicted to food. They're addicted to the idea of food. And how they manage their vice is they make it unavailable to themselves, right? They don't purchase things that they like because they fear that they'll consume them, and those things will ultimately consume them back. Here in the Western world, if you're overcoming an addiction to a controlled substance, why, what they train you to do is run from the thing and be fearful of the fact that it can jump out at you at any time, and you're powerless and surrender and all those other things. And again, it took me back to Reuben's his testimonial, wherein he disagreed with that approach too. You're not powerless unless that is the story you craft and agree to, right? Earlier I'd mentioned white people and their addiction to bullying and trying to feel superior to people of darker hue. It's an addiction. Whenever you see a fucking racist convention or anything like that, you're looking at a den full of addicts. What they are addicted to is releasing their rage at and or in the direction of or directly into people who they train themselves to believe they are physically, morally, and intellectually superior to. It's bullying. I'm allowed to release my rage into you because I'm better than you. That's racism in a nutshell. I'm allowed to wish ill upon you because I'm better than you. I'm allowed to take from you because I'm better than you. You're bottom of the barrel. You're a thing that exists for my gratification. It's very parasitic, but it's an addiction nonetheless. Being addicted to cultures. That's you people don't realize you're addicted to cultures, man. And it's not, I use black people just because it's like black Americans have the most imitated culture in the history of the planet. You can't go fucking 5 years without black people doing something that everybody's biting on, right? But the culture in itself and I guess some of the more corrupt elements of it, they are not emergent from black people. There was social engineering in play. There was somebody decided to take hip hop and only reward people who used it for self-idealizing and egotism and hedonism and tribalism, competition. Someone made a decision to weaponize a pervasive art form against an entire group. It's not happened since. And then if you reward certain people for talking about certain things, then everybody's going to be talking about the thing that's being rewarded. And if everybody's talking about the thing that's being rewarded, then they're literally speaking their existence, their lives into existence. Abracadabra. But you grew up on this culture, didn't you? You grew up listening to Two Live Crew and like a lot of people that I even like right now. I'm saying Two Live Crew. I'm going back to like early Ghetto Boys and stuff like that. Like, you know, when it started off and it was fun, and you had Biz and you had like the harder rappers were like LL Cool J. You know what I'm saying? He used to be like one of the harder rappers when it was like in the seminal stages. You know what I'm saying? Then you got the Ghetto Boys and NWA and stuff like that. I loved that shit. You know what I'm saying? When I was growing up, I loved it. But it's like poison cake. Just because it tastes good doesn't make it less poisonous. Doesn't make it less deadly. Right now, even now, I don't consume pervasive media that's directed towards African Americans on a regular basis. I mean, I watch it when it comes around. I don't consume a lot. I don't watch a lot of sports. I don't do these things because like I understand what the intention behind these things are. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, I don't segregate myself from them. I hear something that comes on and it's hot. It's hot. I love it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not so ingrained in the culture, in the narrative, and I'm not an ideologue to that particular, you know, element that was cooked up again in a boardroom. So I can be around it without internalizing it, and more importantly, without developing a dependency on it. You know what I'm saying? Somebody decided your sons were going to prison. And then they were like, hey, yo, let's pay a bunch of buffoons to normalize, glorify, and edify behavior that's going to wind these people's sons and daughters up in prison. The people who are at the top, the tastemakers, let's make sure they're well rewarded so that everybody who thinks that they're going to follow suit will repeat the same jargon, the same rhetoric. Abracadabra. And it's addictive. You know one of the most addictive parts about it? One of the most addictive parts about it? It's all about egotism. It's all about narcissism. Narcissism is an addiction to the identity. It's an addiction to the self. When you are listening to pervasive media or like just popular records or shit like that, you know what I'm saying? What's the message always? I'm great. I'm amazing. Like when you feeling yourself, you listening to a song, a rap song. And the worst part about it is that doesn't have to be what the art form is. But somebody decided that this was going to be your primary focus in life. That you were only going to think of yourself. Everybody who is supposed to be your neighbor is your rival. And you have to be the most important and the most potent and the most present. You know, I recently unfriended this dude who been fucking beefing with me for a decade. Back and forth, for a decade. Dude just pops up every now and again and wants to fight. Calls himself a rapper, oddly enough. And like one of those bad rappers too. You ever seen a rapper who is so full of the idea of themselves that they do that stupid pause because they're waiting for the audience to catch how deep they were on a punchline. It is one of those rappers. It's bad. It's bad. Like you sit here and like, and to think, and you're like, I can't think of any of his lines right now. But it's just one of those things where it's like just a stupid, awkward pause. Like everybody realize how fucking deep I am, and you're like, what? But no. But here's the thing. The entire art form has been dedicated to self-worship. Narcissism makes you dumb. Vanity makes you dumb. Why? Because it causes you to think with your pride. Hip-hop tells you to think with your pride. And it doesn't have to. It's an amazing art form. Using words as a percussive instrument, brilliant. You know why? Because fucking drums can't use metaphors or similes or things of this nature. Brilliant art form. Its purpose is to corrupt your mind. That's how it was introduced to you. It started off partying, it started off fun. All of a sudden it became sinister. When it became sinister, all of a sudden, when people are high, and they get high, and oddly enough, so many records are devoted to getting high. When people are high and out of their mind and they're completely feeling themselves, and they think primarily through pride, they tend to do stupid shit. Things divorced from reality, things that if they were in their proper frame of mind and it wasn't constantly being drummed into their head that this was normal and it was good, they wouldn't do twice. But just like any drug, just like any vice, people defend it because it makes them feel good. They don't like the side effects. It's like taking meth. Oh man, why won't these teeth stop falling out? Stopped smoking meth. If only there was a way to stop these teeth from falling out. Like all vices, you see the negative effects. But when you can justify why it's good, morally sanitize it in your mind, and whitewash it in idealism, you can go forever until you die, chasing this vice and letting it control you. It's wild. It's wild. So yeah, man. You know, it's like in this way, and I don't want to exclude myself from that. It's like, because you know, I had a couple of vices. I have a couple of vices right now, right? I indulge them from time to time. Usually when it's like I'm trying to accomplish something, but even in saying that, admitting that I have a vice means that it's like I'm not allowed to deflect away from it. Hey, you know what? I have a vice. I have a vice here and there. And a lot of times it does bring me comfort. It does bring me comfort. I manage it. I say, hey, I don't have a problem, because I don't have to do it. But I do it enough to where I'm cognizant of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's nothing related to drugs or anything like that. But the main thing is, I'm aware. I'm aware, no excuses, no deflection. It is what it is. I take nice sabbaticals from it just because. Just because. I know it's there. I know that it has, if I'm not careful with it, it has the power to overtake me and just cause me to waste massive amounts of my time and potential. Which is why I take my sabbaticals from it. Because I know that it's something that's going to be with me for the foreseeable future. And like, there's no way to run from it. You have to kind of sit here and just be with it. Like, yo, I can never let this shit get out of control. But that's honesty, right? When is the vice out of control? When are you no longer in control of your consumption? That's what honesty is. I think that's what made me love Ruben's, interview so much. He had an immediate, honest moment with himself and quit the substance he was taking the next day. Is this serving my purpose? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? And once he realized it didn't, he was like, all right, I'm done. Going back to this addiction white people have to bullying black people, and let's just throw in all majority groups. Bullying darker and brown people, brown and black people. It's a vice. Hey, we're allowed to take our anger and frustration out on you. Hey, we're allowed to channel our rage into you. Thing is, what happens if it's not someone to channel your rage into? What do you do with it? Is channeling your rage into this targeted groups, or is it making you stronger or weaker? How are you faring? Yeah, man. Hey, I got anybody out there? I don't know if anybody tunes into my podcast these days. It's not my job to know. It is my job to put the information out. I've done my part. I'm making it available. This is my job. I'm not here to win an election. I'm not here to win popularity contests with you. I'm not here to try and cater what I'm saying to match your wants and desires and your feelings. I'm not here to prostrate myself before you in any way. My job is literally to share what's been shown with me, and shown to me, and I've made good on my end. I'm continuing to make good on my end, but that's neither here nor there. Look, vices will get you in trouble. When you're high on a vice, you're divorced from reality. When you're divorced from reality, you tend to do stupid things in reality and make negative impacts onto reality because you're lost in the inner story. Look at a junkie, right? A person who abuses drugs to a degree that the only thing they can see is getting high. A person who abuses drugs to a degree that the only thing they can see in life is getting high. Do they mind stealing from their parents? Do they mind stealing from family members, or even doing horrific things in order to get what they need in order to make that score? Y'all have to forgive me. I'm super tired. I didn't rest well last night. Look at how far people will go just to satisfy a vice. It can make you do some crazy, crazy things. But again, when a person is selling their baby to get money, to get drugs, their mind is not in reality. Their mind is in their inner story, and the inner story is focused exclusively on, how do I get this drug? Again, psychosis is an inability to distinguish what's happening in the inner story from what's happening in reality. Again, reality being what exists and functions mutually independent of idealism. When you are a junkie of any kind, let's say even if you're addicted to food, you can look at the effect that food is having on you and be like, yo, I need to change this shit up. Or you can double down and be like, nah, I'm cool. Man, I can fix this anytime. And let the addiction just control your inner story. Which is it? And to sync up with reality, or listen to the voice that's telling you to go deeper and deeper into the dream. Trying to get high, so you went out and you turned a trick in an alley because you wanted to lull the John to sleep so that ultimately you could rob him. You end up killing him. But it's okay, because once you get the drug, you can forget all about it, right? The vice carries you deeper and deeper into the story. And therein lies the rub. And I think that's the best way to express it. Vices always carry you deeper and deeper into the inner story. The deeper you go into the inner stories, the more divorced from reality you become. The more divorced from reality you become is the more psychotic you become, and the more psychotic you become is the more dangerous, the more volatile you become. What kind of things can you do? What are you actually capable of when your mind is not synced up with reality and isn't aware of cause and effect and logic and impacts you make on others or the world around you? How far can you go to create imbalances in reality when you're not even in reality? You're lost in the story of you. Works the same way with narcissism, which is an addiction. How far will you go just trying to get high off the idea of you? And what kind of negative impacts will that cause you to make on reality and those performing in the world around you? If you are your own vice and can always get high off the idea of you, what kind of damage can your addiction cause you to make in the world around you? It's a rough one. A little nasally tonight. Hey guys, anybody out there? I got any viewers tonight? Anybody on the thread? So yeah, man, that's what it boils down to, right? Look here. You can't let your vice, your addiction, run the show. You know, I always give a breakdown of the ego parasite, and I think that is fitting here, so I'm going to go ahead and do so. Again, the ego is a parasite that resides in the human body. It's spread throughout the autonomic nervous system, and is concentrated primarily in the frontal lobes, regions of the brain. this parasite. It feeds on hormones and neurotransmitters like oxytocin, vasopressin, dopamine, serotonin, insulin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, etc. Right? And how it works is the ego parasite. It is responsible for the phenomenon that humans refer to as perception / apperception. Right? So perception is like a secondary thought process that's cast into the human mind, which basically supplants the authentic experience, right? And the reason why it's important to understand that is because this parasite, it uses perception to steer the human host into pursuing and indulging in substances and behaviors that force their bodies to produce the chemicals that it desires and or produce chemicals it desires in higher quantity. So for instance, let's say the ego parasite, let's say it wants insulin, right? Well, what it does is it uses perception to transform reality in the mind of the human host towards making them think they desire sweet and fatty foods, right? If it wants epinephrine or norepinephrine, it can make a person be a thrill seeker. If it wants oxytocin or vasopressin, it can make a person think that they're horny or that they desire affection and love. You know what I'm saying? If it wants serotonin, it can make the human host believe that they desire accomplishment and or inclusion from the larger group, company, etc. So this is the way that it works at a mechanical level. Now, the reason why it's important for you to understand this is because all of your vices are going to somehow be tied to this ego parasite, altering perception in your mind, altering reality in your mind towards getting you to pursue and indulge in substances and behaviors that are going to force your body to produce higher volumes, higher levels of chemicals for it to feed on. It's just a bug playing mind tricks on you. It's just a bug playing tricks on you. Now, because this bug, it's a parasite. It's not fundamentally part of who you are as a person. It has the power to just unilaterally act against you unless you learn how to control it back. How you learn how to control it back is by learning how to discipline that little motherfucker. It's always like, hey, you're going to do my bidding or I'm going to beat you up with withdrawal symptoms and depression and all these other things. And like, you literally have to sit through that, and you have to go without your vices long enough to get that little motherfucker in check. Otherwise, it'll run you ragged. Your ego parasite will run you ragged just trying to please itself. It doesn't care about you. Your ego does not care about your body. Your body, in its view, is its slave. Ego thinks that you're a slave. It's slave. And you know what? If it thinks that, I don't know, coloring on your skin like it's a goddamn coloring book is going to give you presence in the hive towards making you, towards steering attention towards you, and allowing you to consume in ways that are going to make you feel comfortable and basically boost your chemical production in your body, guess what? It'll use you as a fucking coloring book. Because it doesn't care about you. If you introduce something to your system like, I don't know, heroin, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? You're going to keep doing this. You just gave me a main line of something that I've been trying to steal from your body for a second. I'm going to keep altering reality in your mind to make you do this. And if you don't, guess what? I'm going to use the placebo effect in order to just wreck you from the inside with withdrawal symptoms. I'm going to make you suffer unless you do my bidding. And you literally got to check that little motherfucker. Like, no, you don't run this show. You don't run this show. Which is why, again, things like culturalism, it's based in vanity. It's all mechanical. Culturalism based in vanity. Racism based in vanity. Self-idealizing. It's all based in addiction. It's all based in addiction. And if you don't understand the mechanism of it, why? You will waste years of your life chasing ghosts, wondering why. The hooker you can't stop screwing keeps burning you. Guys, you already know what it is. So, I shoot these podcasts Mondays and Wednesdays. Again, I took this last Monday off, spending time with my little boy. And you have to forgive me, I got some nasal issues going on. I think the change of the season's coming up. So, I'm a little congested right now. I shoot these Mondays and Wednesdays on Facebook Live. You can also check me out on Instagram. I shoot stories that I fly over to my Facebook page as well. I fly all of these videos over to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to create a library for y'all. Go through, check this stuff out. Try to understand what I'm saying, because I swear to you, I'm not even kidding. You're going to need to know all of this shit moving forward. You're going to need to know this. Life does not end with human death. Like, this is all stuff you need to know headed into your next life cycle. Hopefully you make changes on this side that set you up for, not getting completely fucked over on that side, but this is all stuff that you need to know. So I'm doing what I can to help get you in the know. And also post content to Medium, parables, stories, things of that nature. The title of this podcast is Sorting and Sorting Principles. If you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do and you want to, assist me in getting the word out and maintaining equipment and all these other things, help the entity that I'm hosting be heard, you can always join the Patreon family. At Avatar Cycle XIII, that's Avatar Cycle 13, and then also you can always Salt Bay your boy a little bit of love on Cash App. I'm Dana Kang. So yeah, man. I'm hopefully I get back into the groove of things, but I think that it's like I covered the main points tonight. Vices are tough, man. Letting go of vices is tough. Letting go of cultures that destroy you are tough. Letting go of ideas and habits that destroy you, they're tough. And the main thing that makes it tough is these things, they give you a sense of comfort. They give you a sense of constancy during times where you feel insecure and uncertain. They give you something that makes life tolerable when you're in the midst of dealing with all of the ridiculousness and the ups and downs that come with living in society as a human. Everybody wants to feel comfortable. I usually don't say everybody, but I try not to speak, definitively on behalf of everyone's experience. But when all is said and done, if people had to choose between comfort and discomfort, especially if discomfort weren't attached to growth, I'm pretty sure nobody would choose discomfort. Pretty sure nobody would choose discomfort. But, yeah. Hanging on devices is easy. Hanging on devices is easy because they make us comfortable in an uncomfortable world. The only problem is they also destroy us. Vices will destroy you. And simply getting rid of the vice or not giving yourself access to the vice doesn't make your addiction to it go away. You actually have to do the work of learning how to exist with access to the vice readily available to you, so that proximity isn't the only thing that gives you power over it, or give it power over you. Again, thank you, Brother Rube, for just a wonderful podcast, and you helped me achieve some language models that I'm very happy to use moving forward. So, dude, I just appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who tunes in and who comments and you know, just gives love. You know, we live in a world where a lot of people just walk around with these horrific attitudes, just looking for people and things to unload on because they're addicted to releasing their rage. And all too often people bring that energy to me. And I'm like, I'm not the one, not today. But they try it anyway. And for those of you who have better control of your emotions than that, and who are brave enough to look something that's an anomaly in the eye without flinching, I appreciate your bravery, I appreciate your honesty, and I love you. It's your man, I'm out.